I really don't like the way these lives work when I'm using Zoom, but I am using Zoom, so we're going to just go with it. There seems to be quite the lag. So I have to kind of watch my Zoom screen and watch this screen. At some point, I may someday figure this out. But until then, hello. My name is Geralyn St Joseph. I'm a psychic intuitive and a relationship empowerment coach. I'm using Zoom, but I am using Zoom, so we're going to just go with it. There seems to be quite the lag. So I have to kind of watch my Zoom screen and watch this screen. Okay, I started hearing myself, had to shut that off. Not sure what is going on because I'm frozen. So I don't know what's happening. But I did want okay, maybe we caught up. I don't know. Okay, so second time I'm going to try to start, and hopefully I'll put something up so that I know I'm when I go to change this, we'll see this. Okay. All right. Take two. My name is Geralyn St Joseph. I am a natural born psychic intuitive. I am also a relationship empowerment coach. I am about to teach my course, which is called Completing the Circle, Path to Self-Empowerment. And this course is all about creating the kind of life that you want, but even more than that, to allow you to feel as good as you're doing. And I know a lot of times people can have achievements and they always feel like they have to go for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And they'll have this hole inside of them that they feel like they can't fill. And it just keeps going and keeps going. So I went through an experience in which I learned how to really embrace every day and embrace everything that was given to me. And I want to talk about that today on this stream. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments. I'm not quite sure how it'll come up on here, but I'll be looking for them. And I want you to know that it is possible and that you don't have to always, you don't have to catch up with the Joneses. None of that stuff is necessary. It's more about where you are, where you need to be, what you need to do, so on and so forth. There are ways to really look at that. Aloha, Michael. Aloha, Natasha. Tasha is Scarlett. We do a podcast together once a week. And I'm glad that you're here. And Michael is aloha from Hawaii, which is awesome. So, okay, I'm trying to get this so that I can see. All right, there we go. Okay. This is my story. This is how I came up with Path to Self-Empowerment. It is my path. It is how I got from basically being ready to just leave this world to being very appreciative for what I have and who's around me and what I can do. When I was just 19 years old, I was in an accident, a car accident, where the car I was in had broken down, and I had my boyfriend and his friend were trying to push me into a like a parking lot because we were in the street. So the street we were on, if I remember correctly, it was 2 lanes going in each direction. And then there were, there was a cross street. We were very close to the cross street. And then there were parking lots on either side. We were closer to the right-hand side. So that's the way we were going to try and at least get the car out of the road and get it towed. I was steering. We did have a secondary car because we had just been on a double date. And my boyfriend and his friend were pushing the car as I was steering it. We saw in the distance lights that were wavering back and forth. We were like, oh no. And we could see them from a distance, but it was like we could not get out of the way. There was no way for us to go. We didn't know which direction to run in because, as I said, the lights were weaving. And this young woman hit the car I was in, driver's side to driver's side. When I saw her coming, my first instinct was, all right, I'm going to just relax my body, put my feet up on the dashboard and hope for the best. And then I hear the guys behind me jumping up and down and yelling for her to stop, that we were here. I mean, we were right underneath a light. So it was a silver car. Yes, it's like 2:30 in the morning, but we are underneath a street lamp. She had plenty of room to go around us either way or take a different street. She did none of these things. She went right into me, driver's side to driver's side. She pours herself out of the car because she was very, very drunk. The girl who was with her was just hysterical. And the kid who was in the backseat grabbed their open six-pack and slinks away as the police come. That accident, even though right after the accident, I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I stood on the brakes to stop the car I was in from hitting my boyfriend and his friend, because if we had hit, it would not have been good for them if we had hit them because of the speed that that car was going. It came at us very quickly. I think the police officer estimated the speed to be 50, 55 miles an hour. We were on a regular road, so the speed limit was maybe 40. Usually within the city, it's 35. We were just outside the city, so I'm not sure. But when she hit the car I was in, now mind you, this is 1987. So it was a big old metal car that I was in. And when she hit the car, she bent the bumper into underneath the front of the car. So that was pushed back into the car. It buckled the side of the car and it buckled the door, so that when I tried to get out, my boyfriend had to really mess with the door before they could get me out on that side because it was buckled. That was the force that she hit me with. And the whole front of her car was just gone. Her car was totaled. It was a smaller car. It was a much newer car. And that was toast. So when the ambulance came and everything, I could walk. I felt like, okay, I just was in an accident. I kind of wanted to really punch her really bad, but my boyfriend wouldn't let me. So I thought I was okay. So we all piled into the friend's car and we take the other girl home. And then as we're going back into the city, I forget what was happening, and I needed to step out of the car because I was by the door, and found that I couldn't move because my shoulder head was like up to my ear. It was like this was completely solid. I was like, it was terrifying because all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, what is going on? So we went right to Jefferson Hospital and I went to the emergency room. It wasn't like today. Especially when they saw me and knew it was a car accident, I got in right away. They put me in a neck brace and they stuck me on this table. And I'm on this table and the doctor comes and she's tapping for your reactions. And she taps my left side, nothing, knee, nothing, foot, nothing. Then she goes to the right side and she taps my knee, and I kicked the thing out of her hand, went flying over my head and hit the wall, and went behind the table, the bed. And she says, well, I guess that's okay. So I laughed, and I'm trying to, the way I try to stay calm is I will tell funny stories. I will laugh. I will try to like do things to lighten the mood, especially for myself, because I felt like I was terrified. I was really scared. I have a friend who was a quadriplegic because of a drunk driving incident that he was involved in. And that was like, that I would not wish that on my worst enemy, to be so aware and totally in your body, but not have any control over it at all. I can't even imagine. Not something I ever want to experience or ever want anybody ever anywhere to experience. So we're there. I'm with my boyfriend. We're kind of making small talk. I was very upset, but I was trying to keep things light. Then the nurse comes to get me to do the neck x-ray. And she puts me in the thing, and I'm like talking to her, like trying to have some banter to get my mind off of what was happening. And she says to me something along the lines of, well, they think your neck is broken. I wouldn't be so happy about it. Like, you better stop moving. And I'm like, oh my God. Just the way she said it, it was so mean and dismissive. And if anything was traumatic for me in that whole thing, the most traumatic part of it was that nurse. And that stays with me. I mean, it's something that's still, just telling the story, it makes me still feel like I got punched. That's what it felt like. It felt like I was being punched by her. So they go back, take the x-ray, and they say, oh, your neck's not broken. Here's a different neck brace. Go to your doctor in the morning. Take some Tylenol. And I'm like, I have no feeling on my left side. Like, this stuff ain't working very well. I could move it, but it felt like it was on Novocaine almost. And I was starting to get a headache, and it was just really difficult. Oh, and by the way, you have a concussion, so make sure you don't fall asleep. What? Excuse me? Remember, this was 1987. We had all the wrong advice for concussions back then. And over the course of a year, I discovered how bad it was and how much I was going to have to go through in order to rehabilitate. And I was not getting a lot of help from the doctors around me. So even though I was in a lot of pain, my neck obviously was janky because my one shoulder was about 2 or 3 inches higher than my other shoulder because of this whole area. And I was in a leg immobilizer. I had torn cartilage in my knee, and my hip was dislocated, but nobody paid attention to that. Apparently that wasn't a big deal to anybody but me. And everybody kept telling me, just relax, just go home, put ice, relax. You'll be fine in a couple days. Year later, I still was not fine. I had doctors telling me I needed to get surgery on my back, that they wanted to fuse my vertebrae together, and that if I did not do this, that I would be in a wheelchair by the time I was 25. Mind you, I'm 20 years old at this point. The worst part about it was that I am an active person. I love to dance, and I am very, very bendy. So when this happened, and then I couldn't really move, to me, it was much, much worse than what the doctors thought it was, because they were like, oh, you're at 80% of a normal person. And I'm like, well, that means I'm at 60% of me. That's not good. But at that time, I wasn't around any doctors or anything who wanted to listen to me. And it was very frustrating going from doctor to doctor. And finally, I found Dr. Hawkins. He was a chiropractor. And I walk in, and I was not supposed to be able to walk on my hip the way it was, because it was out of joint. And when I looked at it, when I looked at the x-ray, I could see that my hip was out of joint. You have the joint that's this way, it was like this. And then the ball joint was out of joint also. So in two places, I was subluxed. That's fine. It's not broken. It's extremely painful, and it does hurt my nerves. But no, they wanted to do surgery on my back. Like that was going to help. In my back, I had a what did they call it? One vertebrae specifically was just gone. It was compressed to the point that it was like not there. And then two vertebrae around it were compressed also. So I had three vertebrae that were not in good shape. When I listened to the doctors, when I did what the doctors told me, the only thing it did was make me feel worse. I mean, they wanted me to take all these different medications, and I was doing this and I was doing that. And they ended up poisoning my blood, and I had gout. I dealt with that from 1988 until 1994. So in 1994 is when I finally got to the point where I was like, I'm not doing this. I am not living like this. When the accident happened, I was just entering my sophomore year in college, and the doctors wanted me to quit school. Absolutely not. I will not quit school. They also, one of the other things I was told was like not to lift too much, not to do this, not to do that. So what do you think I did? I started moving. I started doing my ballet exercises to make sure that I could stay limber and I could continue to move. And as I did more, I was in less pain. So the more I would do, I would tire myself out, but I would not be in as much pain, because then I could move things. I don't remember whether it was 89, it might have been in 89, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Well, back then, a lot of doctors didn't think that was a real thing. I know still there's a lot of doctors who don't think that's a real thing. It does have to do with your nerves, and that your nerves are overactive and they continue to be reactive even after something is healed and that type of thing. So I've dealt with that since that time. And back then, there were no medications for it. There was nothing for it except keep moving, which I had already figured out. I finally came to a point where I was like, look, I cannot live like this. I can't be in pain all the time. I had a solid headache without relief for 9 years, not an hour without a headache. I still have them quite often, not as bad as they used to be most of the time, but this is what I was dealing with. This is what I was living with at that time. I finished school thanks to the wonderful teachers at Temple University who helped me when I couldn't do things the normal way, we'll say. Like I had one teacher, He was amazing. And I feel so bad because I don't remember his name, but he taught criminal science. And I had that class. I did fantastic in that class, except anytime he would do a test, I failed the test. So I'm going home on the subway, and he sees me on the subway. He's like, "Hey, aren't you in my class?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "I don't understand. You always answer when I'm asking questions, like, and you really participate a lot." He said, "But every time you take a test, you're not doing well." So I told him what I was going through, and that, I was in a lot of pain. I had a constant headache. And for whatever reason, when I would go to take a test, it would just, I would go blank. And I'm left-handed, and all the nerve damage was down my left side, or the majority of it was down my left side. So writing was a challenge, let's just say, for a long time. And it still is at different times. Luckily, I am ambidextrous, so I draw with my other hand, and I can write with my right hand if I have to, but we'll leave that for later. So he met me, we were on the subway, and he's like, "What stop is yours?" Mine was next to the last stop. He had a few stops to go, and he just started talking to me and asked me all these different questions about class, different things that we had learned in class. And what would you do with this? And what would you do with that? And what do you think this is? And what do you think that is? And when he got up to leave, he says, "Okay, that was your final." And I was like, I almost cried, because he was so kind to go out of his way to do that for me when he really didn't have to. But he did. And I had several teachers at Temple who I explained what was going on to them, and they really made the effort to help me to be able to pass and get my degree. So that was like huge. That was great. I did I went back and forth with, just, is this worth fighting for, or is this going to be horrible my whole life? Like, what am I going to do? And finally, one day I was like, "Look, I'm just not doing this. Things have got to be different. I need to figure out a way to make them different. How am I going to do that?" At the same time, I was working in the movie theaters, and I had a woman working for me, who introduced me to a bunch of people. She was a professional psychic, as well as my box office person. She helped me in that she helped me recognize my gifts, that my gifts were still here. I had been reading for others since I was in grade school, but she pointed out that this could be a secondary source of income. And she also introduced me to several people. I mean, there's a whole long story with that. But the one that's important is that she introduced me to this woman who she wrote music, and so she was a composer. She also thought that she was a singer. That was not a good idea. But she introduced me to her because one of the things I went to school for, and that I did after graduation, I'm really good with marketing, promotions, and that kind of thing. So that's what we did. I started helping her. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I hope this is coming out okay. Can you guys tell me if you can hear me, if I sound okay? Please. Thank you. So I met her, and at that time, I started to do more of my psychic work, and started to do my calling. But that also made me grow in a lot of different ways, that I didn't have to be in the corporate world. I didn't have to work a 9-to-5 job. And I knew I couldn't at that point. I couldn't, because my body could not handle sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day looking at a computer, or back then it wasn't even looking at a computer, but just being at a desk, just sitting. Like I need something where I'm moving, I'm lifting things. So that's why working in the movie theaters was like the most awesome job ever for me, because I got to lift 50-pound bags of corn, and I got to change the soda things that are really heavy, and I got to run up and down steps to do the film. And it really forced me to keep moving and to use all my muscles. And I really was strengthened by it. So it really was the best job for me. When I met the girl who was, or the woman who was um, my box office girl, now I remember where I was going with that. She introduced me to somebody that I started doing marketing and stuff for. And that group, like there was a group of them that followed this one psychic whose name I believe was Christina. It was something like that. They gave me the book, The Celestine Prophecy. So the Celestine Prophecy is written as like just a story. So it's pretty easy to get through. It's got a nice story, it's got nice pacing. But what I've noticed with it is it has, I think it's 9 precepts, and each chapter is one of them. Like he goes through each one, but it's in story form, so it's easier to digest. But a lot of people who I've given the book to, they will only get as far as they are. So I think now mind you, I have not read this book since 1994. I believe the 4th precept was about your parents and how we choose our parents, and you choose them for a reason. And what I've learned since that time also is not only do you choose your parents, but there's one parent that you are more psychically or soul wise connected to. That parent is the one that you tend to favor. You're around them more, you want to be around them more, and you're just more connected to them. So like for me, that was my father. My father and I were very connected, to the point where like he always knew when something was going on with me. He could feel me no matter how far away I was. I lived in Hawaii and he was in Philadelphia for 10 years of my life. And if I was really upset about something, if something really happened, I'd get a call from him. What's going on? So that type of connection can be made and maintained with these people that you're really connected to. And it doesn't have to be someone that you're physically related to in this lifetime. It could be a friend that you're just on the same wavelength. And it literally is a wavelength that you're on. At any rate, once I found that book, I was so excited, because that book talked about things that I didn't really hear coming from other people. And it set out a view of the world that I'd had since I was a kid, that I didn't know other people felt that way, or thought that way, or had those kind of beliefs or those kinds of experiences. So I was really excited when I read that book. And that, in combination with a few other things that were going on, it really made me sit down and be like, okay, it's time to heal. I'm not carrying this with me forever. So the first thing I worked on was healing my back. I wanted my back to be okay, because, that's your core. It holds you up. It does everything like that. And what I did was I would do white light meditation every day, at least once every day. And I would stream that energy, and I would imagine my spine becoming healthy, and just stretching out and becoming healthy. And it worked. And I was also told I couldn't have kids. And if I did get pregnant by some miracle, that I would not be able to carry them to term, because my body would reject them, and I wouldn't be able to do it. And if I did do it by some miracle, that I would be bedridden and blah, blah, blah. Well, I have a child. I only got one, and my uterus fell down. I couldn't get back up, but I have that one, that one child. And it was the biggest blessing because during my pregnancy, I actually seemed to get healthier. My hair got thicker, my nails got thicker. I always had good nails, but my nails were much better during the pregnancy and afterwards. I felt like I could do anything. I mean, I loved being pregnant. Yes, I had morning sickness all day, every day for 9 months. But you know what? It was worth it because otherwise I felt really good. I felt really strong. I felt very clear minded. I didn't have the same pain that I'd had up until that point. And you would think just the opposite would happen, but that's not the way it worked. So going through that period of time, I took a full year, and it took me a full year to learn how to relax. Up until that point, I was a workaholic. I would work between 60 and 76 hours a week. There were days that I would be at the theater for days at a time. There was a place upstairs where um, there were like these benches that were padded, and we would go to sleep. There was a shower up there, and I'd be on for the midnight shows, and I'd be on for opening up, and it didn't make sense for me to go all the way home. So I would just stay, and I would just stay awake, and I'd keep going, keep going, keep going, because the only way I could really sleep was if I passed out. I had to be absolutely exhausted. So up until the point where I made this decision that I was going to take time and learn how to take care of my body and really come into my spiritual self, I was doing things like that, where I was working to the point of literal exhaustion and passing out. There was one or two times where I missed things because I went to sleep and couldn't wake up for 12 hours, 17 hours. But I chose to change things and to go through this process that I now call completing the circle, path to self-empowerment. Why is it called completing the circle? Why do I call it completing the circle? I'm not using that on a lot of the advertisements anymore, but I call it completing the circle because I feel like we are all whole. We are whole to begin with. And what ends up happening as life goes on is things chip away at who we are. They chip away at our physical comfort. They chip away at our emotional comfort. And so then we're not complete anymore. And what we're taught oftentimes is that we need somebody else. I'm not going to say what I was going to say because that could be mistaken, but we need somebody else to complete us. And we don't. The way I like to explain it is it's like, all right, you are part of a circle. This person is part of a circle. So you think if you come together that it's going to make a complete circle, but it never really does. It never really fits properly, and it's always uncomfortable. So it's like having, if you only have one leg and your other leg is missing from the knee down and you're hopping around, and then you find somebody else, like you're missing your right, they're missing their left. So you come together and you hold on to each other. You're still hopping around. You're not walking. That's kind of what it's like emotionally and spiritually and relationship wise when you're going into a relationship or you're even moving through life and you do not feel complete. You're not whole. Completing the circle is about becoming who we're meant to be. Because when we are complete, when we become who we're meant to be, then we will attract a significant other, if we want one, who is also complete. So instead of being this janky kind of circle thing, what we end up doing is being a full circle, and a full circle meet, and it creates the infinity symbol because your energy needs to flow back and forth, and that's the way that it works. Is your energy flowing back and forth to each other? You support one another. You feed one another. It's not about one taking and the other receiving. It has to be even, going back and forth. And sometimes that does get a little misshapen, where maybe you're going through something that you need more support than your significant other or your friends or your family. And sometimes they need more from you. That's fine. The thing is, that's something that is, it's a period of time. It's not all the time. You're not always doing that. So I'm going to try with this one more time. I think I had the wrong shirt on for this. There we go. Let's try this one. I don't know. It keeps wanting to go to the side. What I went through and where I was coming from, I really needed to figure out a way to restore myself and become more empowered in who I was and what I was doing. And I was feeling really depressed, hopeless. And I didn't want to live like that. So I made the decision, and I don't live like that. By going through a year, learning how to relax, learning how to pull energy into myself, learning how to balance out, learning how to look at things differently. So instead of me blaming that woman, that girl, for drinking and driving and taking my life from me, the life that was ahead of me, that I thought I had ahead of me, I look at it differently. I can look at it and say, okay, that was horrible. And going through all this is horrendous. It's horrible. It's painful. But what did I gain from it? What came out of it? I had to learn how to work around things. I had to learn how to do things differently. I had to learn how to heal myself. I had to learn how to get what I needed, so far as trying to figure out what is it that I did need. And I'm still at 56 years old. You got to remember this happened when I was 19. I'm discovering things that I've been working around for my whole life because of this accident. So I can either look at that with resentment and hate and really want to do ill for that person, or I can look at it as like, okay, that was a turning point. It got me to here. I've learned all these other things along the way. What do I do from here? Where does spirit want to lead me? And what I keep being told is you need to go back to the beginning. You need to go back to the beginning. And what is the beginning? The beginning is completing the circle, path to self-empowerment. On Wednesday, we will be starting on a 6-week adventure. Now, mind you, this took me a year, and I've had people who have taken the course and they only do one lesson a month, or they might do one lesson and then come back to me when they're ready, and then do another lesson and come back to me when they're ready. We're doing this as a group, and we're taking 6 weeks for it. And I know you could do it in that period of time. I kept the price the same as it was the day it debuted in 1994 or 1995. I think it was March of 95 the first time I taught it, but I don't remember. The price then was $333. The price now is $333 for 6 weeks. And for 6 weeks, we will gather every Wednesday night, Eastern time. The lessons will be recorded, but I'm not recording the discussions afterwards. So we'll go through the lesson first. We'll stop it as we discuss things and then start it again. And then you'll have access to those videos. The first thing that I did for this was we had a seminar, but that was last week. I can send you the seminar if you are interested in seeing it before coming into the class. It's really not necessary. What the seminar was an overview on what we would be doing. So we're building ourselves up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We are reconnecting with our souls. You might say source, with God. I say spirit. And it is a spiritual adventure. It is a spiritual journey, as well as being a cognitive and an emotional journey. If you're interested, I'm going to put the link. There we go. Put the link down below. If you just look for me, if you look at, I did 2 other videos on empowerment, self-empowerment. So you will look there also, or you could just look for my websites. I have a lot of them, and I put it on all of them. I also have several blogs. It's on all of those too. I want to make it as easy as possible for you to become a part of it. If you can't afford to pay $333 right off the bat, I have a space where you can just pay for a down payment, which is $55.50. The idea is that everything is paid before the 6th week. So if you do the down payment, then we'll get together and talk about how much you can afford so that you're done before the 6th week. Or if you have special hardship, let me know. I'm doing this because Spirit is saying that people need this right now. We all need that helping hand. We need to have a way to do things, a path to show us what is working and what can work. I know you can benefit from this. There are a few requirements if you're going to take the course. The first is that you are absolutely honest with yourself, with you. We lie to ourselves more than to anybody else. You need to be absolutely honest with yourself and be able to tell when you're not being honest with yourself. And you need to make the commitment to stick it out through all 6 weeks. If you can't come to 1 or 2 of the classes, as I said, I do record. And throughout the weeks, you can send me questions. They're not readings. They are based on what you're doing and different things that are going to happen. So as I was doing this, I became closer with Gabriel, my main guardian and guide. I was shown many of my past lives and how I got here. I was given information about how to heal myself and how to, not necessarily how to heal others, because I didn't pick that up until much later. But I was given the incentive or the inspiration to start reading others and to do it more as that being my main source of income, and that be mostly what I'm focusing on. And then have, I usually had a side job until 2018. I would keep a part-time job and I would do this as my main source of income. So I want you to know it's possible. Self-empowerment, what does that mean? What does it mean to you? It's about feeling full all the time. The way I explain it to people is you feel, you know, that in love feeling, how you feel so full and you just want to smile. That's what it's like when you are in the flow all the time. It's something that you can fall back into. I'm not saying you never have problems, you don't get angry. That's not what I'm saying. But it's an undercurrent that's underneath. It's an undercurrent of peace and joy, or joy. But you have this peacefulness no matter what's going on outside you. The chaos doesn't come within. And when it does, you have the tools that you need to push it back out and put it where it belongs. So I hope you'll meet me there. I hope you'll come and join me. This is really going to be a lot of fun. I've done it dozens of times over the years, but I haven't done it. I looked and I haven't done it since 2014, which is interesting. I think I got aggravated that time because on the last class, I did an hour and a half of no sound and nobody told me. So don't do that to me. If there's no sound, let me know. Okay. I hope to see you soon, and God bless, or whatever, in whatever way you want to accept your blessings. Thanks. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, after that long thing, let's do a short reading. Things have been really crazy lately, and what I've noticed is that a lot of corruption is being brought to the surface, and we're being asked to question our assumptions. That's what we call it, assumptions. I'm not going to say beliefs. It's more, it's assumptions that we're being asked to question. Are we always just assuming that this is good or that's good or the other thing? What we want to know is, now that we're in this period of time where things cannot be hidden anymore, where things are very open. And it's interesting because I feel like part of that is due to our energy, that we're feeling that things are in a good space now. Okay, I'm going to do this. All right, I'm trying to make this be the best that I can with the resources that I have. Okay, so knowing that things cannot be hidden, have you changed the way you do things? How are we reacting to that? What are we doing with it? Are we using it as a time of discovery? Okay, so this is the Rider-Waite Tarot, and I'm just going to ask Spirit, what do we most need to know right now? What will help us the most right now? Okay, so we have 3 of Wands, and we have 10 of Pentacles. 13, that was yesterday's, no, not, that was Friday's date, was the 13th. Okay, so we have these 2 cards, and if we look at them together, they seem very different, don't they? They seem like this person is by themselves waiting for something, and this person has community. You see the old man, you see the little kid, you see the dogs, you see the women. So Spirit is saying, right now, as we're looking for our community, the thing to remember is that we don't have to settle for things that don't fill us, whatever that means to you. That when you're looking for your community, you need to look for people, places, and things that, there we go. Now hopefully it won't keep going in and out. That really spark you up, that make you feel like moving forward, that inspire you in some way, that fill you with enthusiasm. 3 is the number of divinity, and we see he's got these 3 wands with him, and he's looking out over the water. I don't know if you can see that too well. He's looking out over the water. He's waiting for his ship to come in. He's waiting for that. He's been very patient, but now he's getting impatient. He wants it now. Most of the work that he's done is behind him, but he's still holding on to something. So he's not embracing everything that's there for him, probably because of old thought systems and the way things used to be and the way he thinks things should be and the way he wants things to be. His ultimate goal is the 10 of Pentacles. And the 10 of Pentacles, that's the tree of life, that symbol right there. The tree of life tells you that there's more than one way to any destination. So if you're holding on to something, to your idea of something, your idea of how to get there, that could be the one thing that's holding you back. Maybe you need to recalibrate and figure out what it is that you really want and let go of how to get there. I don't know if you guys have been feeling how chaotic it's been, but it's been pretty chaotic. And the energy, you have to shift into the energy. You have to shift into the flow. Once you shift into the flow, things will start taking off. But you may not see the way it's going to happen. So letting go of that thing that is stopping you allows all this to come to you. And you need to remember, what are your roots? Where's your stability? Where did you lay your roots? And even if it's something that you don't want to rely on anymore, or you want to move away from, that means something too. But having some stability there also allows you to jump from there into something else. The tree of life tells us that there's more than one way to get anywhere you want to go. There's 21 different paths to any destination. Even if you seem like you're going backwards, you might be going forwards. Be ready when the chance comes, when the opportunities come. You want to be ready. You've been prepared, but you need to prepare in a more broader sense and really look at what it is that you want. What is it that you're trying to do? What is it that you are hoping for? If you think to get there that you have the answers, you probably don't. Because not everything is as it seems. And sometimes thinking we know the way, we totally miss the shortcut. We totally miss the way it's going to come to us because we're so set on, this is what I have to do. You will get back or attain that which you're looking for. You are going to reap what you sow. But also know that it doesn't mean that things are going to come the way you expect them to come. There's a difference. There's a different way that things can come to you. I'll tell you a little story, which I tell all the time because I'm so proud of it. When I first moved to Hawaii, the first time I went to Hawaii, I went with a baby. I was a single mom. It was my 30th birthday. One of my clients invited me out. She was wonderful. I love her. And I went out to visit her with my baby. Wonderful experience. Amazing. As soon as I stepped off that plane, my whole body just relaxed. And I felt like, this is home. And I know a lot of people really love Hawaii and they feel relaxed there and because the Hawaiian Islands are very feminine. They're very nurturing. I understand that. But the island selects some people because it wants you there or it needs your energy there for whatever reason. And you almost become anchored there. So I went the first time and then I went another time within the same year. My baby was 18 months old, on the plane, one suitcase, myself, $200 to my name, and I go to Hawaii again to visit with my client. She helps me set up. Day before I was supposed to leave, I was praying. I said, because we had made plans for me to be able to stay and then spend 6 months in Hawaii and 6 months at home. It was this whole thing with her roommate was in the military. I would take his space when he wasn't there. And then, but then he ended up getting transferred out, no longer had that space. So everything had to change in the 2 weeks that I was there. Day before I was supposed to go home, I prayed and I said, okay, if I'm supposed to be here, I need certain things to happen before I go to the airport tomorrow. I need to have a job where I can keep my child with me. I need to have a car, and I'm going to need some place to live, for us to live that's safe. Within hours, I was offered a job where they gave me a car and they let me keep my child with me. Awesome. Within 6 days, I was in an apartment that cost me $200 a month. That was in 99 and 2000. $200 a month. Unheard of, even for then. And I was in a place called the Valley of Magic. I was up on the ridge in the back, up in the mountains. It was amazing. Not a lot of houses around us. And it was interesting because in front of us, as you go down, there was like a Buddhist temple, a Protestant church, another church. There was a school for Eastern medicine and like all this stuff. And that's one of the reasons why it was called the Valley of Magic, because we had the highest concentration of all kinds of religious and spiritual places were in that little, and it was Nuuanu was the valley. If I had been like, well, I have a baby, I need security, I don't have what I need, what am I going to do? I can't do this on a wing and a prayer. And I didn't have faith that it was going to show up for me, because the way it showed up was wild. I made the petition, and within hours, through my client, I met a man who owned a garage, and he was looking for somebody to do like the paperwork and work in the office of the garage. So he gave me a car to be able to get back and forth, and I worked for him in the garage, and I could keep my baby with me because the garage was attached to an apartment where if she needed to go down for a nap or anything, she'd be right in the next room. If you believe that there's only one way to get to your destination, you may completely miss all the other ways to get there. Maybe to get there, you win something. Maybe somebody gives you an inheritance. Maybe you stumble upon it. Maybe you're talking to somebody while you're in the bus or something, and they happen to have this great job for you. But if you really believe that the only way those things happen is if you push and push and push, then you're going to miss those opportunities. And that's not necessary. It's after midnight here, so I'm going to go. If you have questions for me, if you want to join the class, if there's anything you want me to talk about when I come on these lives, because I am very spontaneous with it, just let me know. All righty. Don't forget to like and ring the bell. That way you know when I go live. Sometimes I do readings, but that is not the meat of everything that I do. So I like to switch it up sometimes. All righty. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully I'll catch you next time.